It's a real privilege to be here with someone who has distinguished himself, I think, in his service to the region, in his service to the state, in his service to the country, and indeed the world. I got to know Mark particularly well back when I was a reporter in '99, and he was running for Congress in 2000, and then we worked together on transportation issues. And I never saw a member of Congress get as deeply into the minutiae and the granular detail that animates regional transportation as I did when Mark decided really to join up with the 2004 Lipinski Task Force, because he wanted to know the issue and because he wanted to be able to advocate for everyone in this region and indeed all of Illinois with the basis of that knowledge. And he's taken that kind of commitment on from the House to the Senate and from the Senate floor all over the world, not just as a serving naval officer when he's now retired, but also as a legislator in our upper house of Congress. It's a voice that people listen for. It is a voice that informs and I think inspires. And that's why everybody at the City Club is really happy that you are here, and everybody at the City Club is happy that we are welcoming our Senator, Mark Kirk. Mark, come on up.
Well, Chris, I wanted to thank you for having me here before this group. Looks like a greeting of Republicans from where I'm here. You guys all, let me get right to it. I'm going to talk about Iran. On the subject of Iran, my service in the Senate has been very focused that we do not have a nuclear war in the Middle East that affects our children ever, and that we make sure the state of Israel, our best ally in the Middle East, survives the 21st century. So, take a look, everybody. I brought homework because it's a Kirk event. I got a 6-page summary of Iran policy for you that makes the argument for sanctions on the Islamic Republic of Iran. Please take a look at page 1. You will see the value of the Iranian currency compared to the dollar, with a tremendous 73% drop when we started real sanctions on Iran. This is the reason why the Iranians came to the table in Lausanne. With such financial pressure on them, the Menendez-Kirk sanctions really did work. The president over and over has mentioned how important the sanctions were in bringing the Iranians to the table. If you can go to page 2, it's the heart and soul of the negotiations going on, that the United States has been steadily relieving sanctions at a rate of $490 million per period. They have already released $4.9 billion, which, as you can see, is enough money to run Hezbollah for 40 years. If you can go to page 3 there. Page 3, you might say, if we tank that currency, how much does it actually affect the economy? The economy of Iran went into a pretty deep recession with these currency fluctuations. We really pushed the mullahs into a pretty steep recession, which was my goal in the sanctions battle. If you go on to page 4, it answers the question. A lot of people have been wondering what a good agreement would look like with Iran. The model nuclear disarmament agreement is the one that was signed by South Africa under Nelson Mandela, under the slogan, if it's good enough for Mandela, it should be good enough for Khamenei. They had already built 4 nuclear weapons. Look down the chart here. The South Africans have agreed to complete transparency to anywhere, anytime inspections. If we wanted to look at Mandela's underwear, we could look at it under this agreement. If you look down at, you'll see 4 mushroom clouds. Those are the 4 detonations that happened under North Korea's leadership, which if you remember back to the Clinton administration, you would remember back to the person who was running our negotiation with North Korea, Wendy Sherman, the very same person who's running the Iran negotiation, which should make you pause. Look at the dates there. October 9th, 2006, May 23rd, 2009, specific times and detonation times when the North Koreans actually did detonate a weapon. That was after all the Clinton negotiations, which they successfully managed to pull off. If you go on from page 4 to page 5, it summarizes the role that Iran has been on. Look at the, everybody knows that the Iranians have basically taken over the government of Yemen with the Houthi insurgency that they backed, that took Sana'a, the capital there. And once the Iranians, the IRGC, Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, helped the Iraqi government take Tikrit, that meant that they were probably the key power broker in Iraq. One wag the other day, Lindsey Graham, said that Iran now controls 4 capitals, one in Yemen, one in Iraq, one in Washington, in America. Yeah. Lindsey also cracked one day to Lisa Murkowski, the senator for Alaska. We're one Putin phone call away from losing Alaska. Yeah. So if you go to page 6, page 6 is the end. It summarizes, what do we do? I would say, obviously, as a politician, we passed my legislation, the Brown-Kirk sanctions bill, just recently passed the Senate 100-0. Menendez Kirk already passed Bob Menendez. Oh, so sad to see what happened to him. That passed 100-0. And with that, let me conclude. You now have completed your Iranian homework for the day. Thanks, everybody. Yeah. Let's go on to questions from Roebling.
Mark, are you going to have a seat? Okay. Thank you very much. I'll tell you what, as we are getting questions brought up, I want to, perhaps, Senator, you, having spoken about Iran, would you like to make some points about your current advocacy for Illinois in the Senate? For Illinois?
My goal has been to make sure that Illinois is cool again. I have been asking everybody at the table, where was the cell phone invented? It was the first cell phone call was made from Soldier Field. I would ask you, where was the zipper invented? Where was the vacuum cleaner invented? Where was nuclear power invented? Illinois, and all those points. And I've been constantly emphasizing that tradition of invention and wealth creation that was created just by our state. To overcome sometimes the joke which a lot of senators say to me, they say, hey, Kirk, you're the only senator representing a state where one governor can turn to the other in the prison cafeteria and say, hey, Gov, the food was a lot better when you were in power here. Yeah.
Do you get a lot of that?
I do. And my job is to make sure that this state is seen as the 5th largest economy we're as big as the GDP of the Netherlands, that we are seen for a proper leading role in inventing and creating things. If you look down at your iPhone, which I have here in the right pocket, this is the most manufactured thing on earth, 76 million sold. Inside the guts is Martin Cooper of Winnetka, and the web browser is Mark Andreessen, who invented the web browser at Champaign with Netscape. So the most manufacturing thing in history has both deep Illinois roots from inventors in our state. I just got a message here. The Iranians are doing a joint statement in Lausanne. It's going to say, we agree to disagree. Yeah, that's what it's going to say. I've been trying to make sure that we make our state cool again.
All right.
And we beat those bastards at Hartsfield International in Georgia.
Yeah, let's have a round of applause for that. All right, okay. Senator Kachi Anyikawa of HNTB Corporation asks, what are your views or thoughts on funding transportation and infrastructure?
The new transportation bill has a chance of being a very great boon for the state of Illinois. The hot topic now in the Senate is to pick up on Schumer's idea, as you saw that Chuck is likely to run the Democratic caucus coming up, with a brief victory over Senator Durbin, my colleague, that the Schumer idea that he likes most is repatriation of profits from American corporations. Just to give you an idea how big this problem is, we are told that Apple has $200 billion offshore waiting for this tax change. If we do not have the highest corporate tax rate in the world, I think we should have good bipartisan support for that and bring those profits home. Take about 10% of the money and fund a transportation bill. That'd be a good way to handle it.
Terrific. Stacy Zolt-Hara of Edelman, a member of the City Club, asks, Senator, what is your stance on the renewable fuel standard?
I like it.
There you go.
Yeah.
Stephanie, is that okay? Stacy, you got enough? Is it any elaboration? No.
I'll elaborate that I am pro-ethanol. When we look across the Illinois economy, let me divide for a second on my big plan for the Illinois economy. I've gone to the Archer Daniels Midland leadership, wanting to use their credit to fulfill a provision that Dick and I put in the Water Resources Act to allow for the privatization of all the locks and dams on the Mississippi River, in return for lengthening and widening all of them in preparation for the expansion of the Panama Canal. I think with an ADM bid, we could mobilize private capital. I would want to do this. To get anything done in Washington, you have to avoid Washington. Yeah. I want to turn the Mississippi River into an export drag strip for Illinois. If we can land the bulk products on the Pacific Rim, we will crush our competitors for a generation. That will transform incomes across Illinois. Soybeans and coal to make sure that goes out cheaper than anybody else.
I think Stacy asked a great question.
It was a good question.
Right.
Yeah.
Senator Peter Scozzi, a member of the City Club and also Executive Vice President of the Metropolitan Planning Council, asks, will you reintroduce the Lincoln Legacy Act to allow tolling on existing roadways?
I will. I think that if we can mobilize private resources away from the gridlock of Washington, you can probably see from the work I've done on Iran, but leaders of the pro-Israel community have really wanted to be as bipartisan as possible. And I have gotten every single Democratic senator to support my amendments on Iran, to make sure the Senate speaks with one clear voice, 100-0, to make sure, with this Lincoln Legacy Act, it mobilizes private resources to enhance infrastructure. I think the big battle that I had was on people who had gas stations. They really were against any kind of tolling, and that was probably the one roadblock I could not overcome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Senator Nick Wilder of Waveland Partners, he sort of is a member of the City Club and has a couple of questions. When will Republicans admit that human activity causes climate change?
About 2 weeks ago, we voted on that very subject, and I voted on that subject in the Senate. That was the Sanders amendment to the Senate budget. We did have a number of our Republicans vote on that principle, saying that anthropogenic generations of carbon played a role in global climate change.
Okay.
And I think the moderates like Susan Collins and me and Murkowski were the Republicans on board with that provision.
Okay. That answers Nick's second question, which is when will Republicans cooperate with Democrats to address the problem? So I'm going to take that one as answered and go on to...
I already did it with regard to Iran on 2 separate Kirk amendments, getting every single Democratic vote for that provision. Yeah.
Michael Bauer, who is now the co-chair of Governor Rauner has appointed Michael Bauer, friend of the City Club and member. Michael, you're the co-chair of the Illinois Holocaust and Genocide Commission. Let's have a round of applause for Michael's leadership.
And special prayers for Michael's husband, Roger, who was wrestling with leukemia. Yeah, Michael really asked that he, let me take a personal moment. Raise your hand if you have a family member that's ever gone through a stroke. Later on, if that person is depressed, grab me after this event. I want to call them to tell them better days are ahead. You're going to get better. I would say I've talked to about 24 Illinois citizens, people who recently had strokes, say, remember when I climbed the steps of the Capitol, if you just treat what your physical therapist says as the revealed word of God, you're going to get a lot better.
Michael's question. How would you, Senator, describe and assess the Obama administration's Middle East policies?
I guess Speaker Boehner in Tel Aviv today said in his view that the world was on fire. I'm very worried that we're repeating the mistakes of the late 1930s when the United States was very weak and unable to confront Hitler and especially Mussolini. And we gave a signal to the dictators to just go as far as possible. That laid the groundwork. There's a famous discussion on the Scrambler between Roosevelt and Churchill at the beginning of the war, when Roosevelt said, Winston, what do you think we should call this thing? World War I or II? And Churchill said, we should call this thing the unnecessary war that we could have stopped if we had just been stronger against the dictators. The 1938 analogy, I think, holds true for these days. That I would say, with the Menendez-Kirk sanctions on Iran, we were winning, we were tanking the Iranian economy. They were coming to the table begging to have an agreement. The president over and over again, I won't try to change history too much. He did send a letter to me when we started the Menendez-Kirk sanctions, strongly opposing the very sanctions that brought the Iranians to the table, showing his instincts were completely wrong on this subject. That for my goal as a senator of Illinois, it's been to make sure that our kids do never watch a nuclear war in the Persian Gulf, and make sure that our strongest ally in the Middle East, Israel, survives this century.
Well, following on, Dave Lundy, a member of the City Club and with Aileron Communications, says, how can we restore and enhance full international sanctions if the United States walks away from the talks, as some are urging it to do?
I think there is, I will cite Kirk's rule of dealing with bad dictators. Bad dictators always do the worst possible thing that undercut the Americans who are working with them. That we wait for the bad dictators to all, in the case of Iran, they've just started executing gay Iranians. They've executed a couple hundred of them. I've been working with the log cabin Republicans to point out the gay death toll in Iran from all the gay folks in the Persian zone who have been executed by the Iranians. To do that shows a level of intelligence which show there's no long-term future for Iran. To make sure that we always stand up. We got to have the conviction of our own convictions in the West. We are the tolerant people. I'm not exactly applying my remarks to Indiana here. Yeah. We're the tolerant people. That leads. There is an argument that you can make that toleration led to us having the atomic bomb. In the case of Enrico Fermi, he only came to the University of Chicago after Mussolini put in the same anti-Semitic laws that Hitler had in Italy. And Fermi's arrival at the University of Chicago revolutionized the Manhattan Project, as we've seen from Fermi Lab and Argonne, pretty much the Illinois economy. And John Rose here, 11 nuclear reactors providing clean carbon-free power. Does that sound, John, good? Yeah, to power the Illinois economy. Yeah.
Senator, Marcia Bristow of Access Living, a member of the City Club, asks you, I know you are reviewing the nomination of Loretta Lynch, which has been hanging out there for 140 days. What can you do to press Senate leadership for a vote, and can we assume that you will support her confirmation?
I visited with Loretta for a while, and the entire discussion revolved around my goal as a U.S. Senator for this state to give tangible federal support to the city of Chicago to crush criminal gangs, to make sure that the big, large gangs like the Gangster Disciples cannot operate like they have been operating. Loretta did a very good job with me, and because she was so good on the subject, I'm going to vote for Loretta Lynch's confirmation. Yeah. And I will say that I've set aside $20 million in the Senate appropriations process, and I realized in the real world you have to have dollars to back up your commitment for overtime and equipment by U.S. Marshals to hopefully take out large sections of the Gangster Disciples. My hope is working with Gary McCarthy. He has shown me the map of the gang-controlled Illinois, and I'm about to go to Peoria, where we actually have a pretty bad gang problem. So the gang issue plays in Peoria, unfortunately. We should have more federal backup. In the case of the Gangster Disciples, about 18,000 members. I'm not calling for the mass arrest of 18,000 members at once. We don't have the logistic capability to do that. If you look at the Gangster Disciples the way they actually exist, it's about 50 separate sections. And my hope is that we get it down to 30 or 14 or 15 to wipe out those little islands of Gangster Disciplism, to make sure this gang, which largely victimizes our minority low-income community and destroys economic prospects. I will highlight that the average recruitment time in a gang in Illinois is in the 7th grade, when we lose almost a whole lifetime of a kid, in which all that potential is wasted. Make sure that we work carefully and not be too dainty about church-state relations, that we look at those institutions inside the African-American community, which is the churches, and we take hold of folks' soul and their life and bring them back as a United States citizen. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mark Weiermiller, member of the City Club.
Yeah.
Would you consider a federal bailout for the failed pension mess? Now, Mark doesn't say if this is the Illinois failed pension mess or the city of Chicago failed, or just everybody's failed I don't know which one Mark, which one are you talking about? Where are you, Mark? All of them. He's asking about a big bailout.
I would say in the case of a bailout for the state of Illinois, which now has the worst credit rating of any state in the country, I would now say under Governor Rauner's no spending policy, I think that Illinois is due for a credit upgrade because he's not spending money. The rating agencies should give Rauner the credit for the fiscal conservatism, which he already has.
All right.
Yeah.
I've got two questions. I'm going to link Jill Bremer and Clint Sabin. Jill asks about your position regarding Illinois' version of the Religious Freedom Restoration Act. And Clint says, has your consistent support for equal rights for the gay community ever created a problem for you with your fellow Republicans?
Thank God it hasn't. I'm not going to give up on that. I'm going to make sure that we stand for equal rights as the party of Lincoln, that Republicans started out free soil, free labor, to make sure the only way to handle a freedom problem is to provide more freedom over and over again. I would say that, yeah.
All right. And
with regard
Illinois
to
RFRA, yeah.
Yeah. I'll take that back up. With regard to Indiana, I would say we should not protect bigotry under the cloak of religious feeling. Okay. I do not like that.
I have a question from Rebecca, I believe it says Sly, a member of the City Club, Illinois Business Immigration Coalition. Senator, thank you for your leadership on immigration reform. Any chance for immigration reform to pass before the 2016 elections, and how might that happen if it's possible?
In the Senate, you know, you need 60 votes to overcome anything. I would find tough times thinking that we could, where the 60 votes are for that. I'm going to speak it straight to you. I have also voted for the comprehensive immigration reform. I think that would actually help the Illinois economy to bring 525,000 people out of the shadows. From my own experience as a congressman for Waukegan, if we look at Waukegan and you subtract the Hispanic community, that would subtract almost all the new economic growth and investment that has happened in that town. That we should see the Hispanic community for what it is, as entrepreneurial, law-abiding, and positive to the economic growth of the state.
Okay, we've got we're joined today by the executive director of the RTA, Leanne Redden. Thank you very much, Leanne. The trains ran on time this morning. Thank you.
Yes, yeah.
And one of your predecessors, Steve Schlickman, is also here, a member of the City Club, and asks, thank you, Senator, for your military and public service. As a member of the Banking Committee with jurisdiction over mass transit, how, in your opinion, can Congress overcome its inability to create a long-term funding program for transit and highways?
My hope is that we repatriate hot profits and take a percentage of that money and use it for a new transportation bill. That should also back transit and highways. We got to look at national bottlenecks, which we have in the south end of the city, and fund the CREATE program. Let me tell you guys the main reason for CREATE. You know, cargo arriving from the Pacific market, arriving in California takes 3 days to get to Chicago. Just across the south side of Chicago takes 3 days. That is the reason for CREATE, so that we can have just-in-time inventories throughout the U.S. economy, to centralize the role of the U.S. of Illinois in the U.S. Half of all road rail intersections are in the state, to make sure that we untie these problems.
So you're hopeful about a possible long-term solution?
Yeah, I think once we repatriate the profits and to make sure that we don't have the highest corporate tax rate in the world, that's going to eliminate the incentive for corporate inversions like what Walgreens was looking at.
It's our last question, Senator, and it's going to take us back to our beginning. From Sharon Alter, member of the City Club with City Center, I think it says. Please explain why you were one of the 47 senators who signed Senator Tom Cotton's bill to the Iranian head of state.
I think that we have to have a strong policy to make sure that this state sponsor of terror, which was been certified as a terrorist nation by Democratic and Republican presidents since Jimmy Carter, we make sure that they don't get nukes. Let me go through the scenario that I discussed with the president on. The moment the Iranians get a working nuke, they have the ability to describe how it looks. If we in the intelligence community, from my old job, got a report inside Istanbul in this garage, there was a 4.5-ton truck with something with a long tube and 5 concentric rings of radioactive material. We will say, aha, that's a working nuke. Once you can describe a working nuke, you can scare the bejesus out of anybody. Then the mayor of Istanbul would have to wonder or not whether to evacuate the city. That gives the Iranians tremendous leverage over any potential opponent. Want to make sure that they don't have that. That's why I signed that letter, to make sure that we showed Republican unity to the direction that we're going, which I agree with, heads in the direction like Bibi Netanyahu told us. It's a paved road to a bomb that happens. We got 6,500 centrifuges all running now. And Secretary Kerry has already told us before the Senate Foreign Relations Committee that we're only 2 months away from a working bomb in Iran. I want to make sure that that is not, the Iranian bomb doesn't become the Hezbollah bomb and become the Houthi bomb. The problem, what happens when all these bombs come into the Persian Gulf, the Saudis probably will call the Pakistanis, who should be regarded as the Avis Rent-A-Car of bombs, and they will fly them over, and Riyadh will become a nuclear power right away. As a retired naval officer, I would say, the moment you put nuclear weapons into a Persian Gulf scenario, then you force our admirals to look the president in the eye and say, Mr. President, I can do nothing about this Persian Gulf situation. I cannot secure the West's supply of energy here. That's a position that I do not want a future president to be in.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.